The goal of this short video is to give you an overview over the connection between mindfulness meditation and what is going on in the brain. Particularly from the point of view of a new discipline in this area that has come from a lot of research that has been done called interpersonal neurobiology. So when you see somebody meditate and you see somebody sitting there and they sit straight and they close their eyes and nothing happens, nothing seems to happen, nothing seems to move, and you wonder what's going on. And in fact, many people, when they come to meditation, that's one of the major struggles. They feel nothing is going on. It's absolutely boring. What am I doing this for? Why am I sitting here doing nothing? Well, in fact, there is an enormous amount that is going on. And I'm going to try and help you understand what is going on from a point of view of the brain, because that can be something that helps people to come to meditation and realize its value. As humans, we are what is called an open complex system. And what that means is that we are an organism that takes information in from the outside world and processes that information internally, but also processes the way that it processes its own information. So there's a meta-processing that goes on, and then turns this information processing into suitable action for survival. So that's, in short, what an open complex system is. Now, open complex systems have subsystems, and the way that these subsystems relate to each other is very important with regards to the question whether an organism or an open complex system is healthy or not. These subsystems, they are linked with each other. They have a relationship with each other within the whole organism, but at the same time they also are separate. So there's a differentiation between these subsystems, but also a linkage between the two. It's really very much like an orchestra that plays well. You have the different instruments that are separate, they have their separate voices, but at the same time they are linked. Now, when that process of differentiation and linkage is, you can say, harmonious or balanced, then the whole organism is in balance, and we say that the organism moves to its integration. And integration, from a point of view of us human being, means health. In other words, if there's too much linkage between the subsystems, there is rigidity, and that causes symptoms. If there's too much differentiation, there's chaos, and that also causes symptoms. And so, in fact, the DSM-4, the Diagnostic Manual of Diseases, of mental diseases, is simply a collection of states of chaos or rigidity. Anxiety is chaos. Depression is rigidity. So that's what we are working with on a very fundamental level. Now let me move on to see how that applies to the actual anatomy of who we are. Daniel Siegel uses his hand as a model for the brain, and it's I want to use it because it is really handy. In a very simple way, this is how the brain and the nervous system looks like. We have Here, the arm is the spinal cord. It takes information from the body, from the senses, and it processes this information up into the brainstem. So this part here is the brainstem. Now, from there, the brainstem is responsible for fight-flight responses and things like that. Now, from there, the information gets further processed into what is called the limbic system. And the limbic system is the seat of memory processing, of fear, anxiety processing, emotional processing, and other things. From there, from the limbic system, it moves up into the cortex. And you have the back of the cortex, the front of the cortex. The back of the cortex is much older in evolution. The front of the cortex is much newer. In fact, these structures at the bottom are the oldest ones, and it goes up like this. At the very end, here where my fingernails are, it is like this. Where my fingernails are, you have something that is called the medial prefrontal cortex. That is a structure that you only find in human beings to this extent. You can't find it anywhere else. And this is the part of the brain that allows us to have an awareness of awareness. Now notice something really important about this medial prefrontal cortex, and that is its location. And its location is very special because it is one neuron away, literally, one neuron away from every other part of the nervous system. It is one neuron away from the cortex, where all the thinking comes from. It is one neuron away from the limbic system. It is one neuron away from the brain stem, you can see, and it is one neuron away, therefore, from the body. What that means is that the MPC, this is short form for the medial prefrontal cortex, the MPC is the master integrator of the energy flow of the organism. And in meditation, in mindfulness meditation, we harness the power of the MPC to integrate the whole nervous system, which, when I say nervous system, I mean also the extended nervous system, including the whole body. And so that is the core, I would say, the core connection between meditation and the brain. Within this hand model of the brain, within this whole system of the brain, you have 9 neurocircuitry subsystems, so to speak. And each one of those neurocircuitry subsystems needs to be properly integrated for health. One of them, for example, is the integration of the left brain with the right brain. Another one would be memory integration. Another one would be, for example, the integration, the connection between the MPC at the very top, so to speak, all the way down into the body. When we don't have that integration, for example, we are literally cut off from our body, and that causes all kinds of problems. So in meditation, in mindfulness meditation, in working the way we do, we actually integrate those 9 different subsystems towards a state of greater harmony and health. So how do we promote integration in a more precise way? It is useful here to conceptualize in a fundamental way that what we are as human organisms, what everything is really energy flow. Every single thing is energy flow. This chair here is energy flow. my organism is energy flow. And one way that we can define what it means to be human is to say the following thing. Is to say that as human beings, the energy flows in 3 different systems. Or the energy flow has 3 different aspects. The first aspect is that the energy flow has a structure. And so the structure of the energy flow of the human being is the brain. The brain in its widest sense. So the brain and the extended nervous system, including the body. So the brain is the structure of the energy flow. Now, many animals, but particularly also human beings, the way that we grow, the way that the brain grows is by sharing the energy flow with another brain. This is how we grow up. And so the energy flow gets also shared, and that is the relationship aspect of the energy flow. And finally, when you have a brain in relationship, there is something new that emerges. There is a function that emerges whereby the energy flow is being regulated. And the regulator of energy flow we call the mind. So here we are. We can define being human as a triangle of energy flow whereby there is a structure to it, which is called the brain. There is a way that energy flow is shared, that is called our relationships. And the way that it is regulated, it's called our mind. And these 3 aspects are inextricably linked. And so what we can say, and we know now that it is a scientific truth, we can now say that we can harness the power of the mind as the regulator of energy flow to rewire the brain and to harmonize our relationships. And when we can do that, we move towards health. So now, how do we do that? How do we regulate our energy flow? We do that with our attention. Regulation means monitoring and modifying. So with our attention, we monitor and we modify the energy flow that we are. The way we do that, very practically speaking, is that we learn to aim our attention on certain focuses. We learn to sustain our attention through our intention without it being taken away by all kinds of distractions. And we learn to redirect our attention in case it got distracted. And so these 3 aspects, aiming, sustaining, and redirecting attention, is called concentration. So at the core of the way that we regulate energy flow, we use our attention to learn to concentrate and then hold what we concentrate on in awareness with an attitude of curiosity, of openness, of acceptance that is tantamount to love. That's very important. It's not just paying attention, but it is paying attention with that attitude of curiosity, openness, acceptance, and love. And when we do that, automatically, the organism that we are moves towards a greater state of integration, which means a greater state of health, which means a deeper state of peace, independent of circumstance. So having given you this little overview of a connection between this mindful attention and what's actually happening in the brain and in the body, I do want to finish with another comment. And that is that this being all said, the core of mindfulness practice goes way beyond that. The core of mindfulness work ultimately is to open ourselves to the greater context of which we are a part of, which goes beyond just our physical life from birth to death, but which includes the wider context of the energy flow that has been flowing for unknown eons and will be flowing for unknown eons, in fact opening up to that which cannot be grasped, cannot be talked about, cannot be named with our conceptual mind. And ultimately, that is the mystery of mindfulness, and that is the great liberation that comes when we surrender to this path.